Hello, hello. Dennis, how's it going?
I ate some bad chicken apple sausage. I was up and down all night. So
Oh no.
outside of that, I'm perfect.
Well, I'm happy to hear that you're perfect, except for the chicken. Hey, Alicia, how's it going?
Hi, Neil. It's
Hi.
Hi,
it's
Alicia.
going. Hi, Dennis. How are you?
I am well, thank you.
Good. Good.
I'm just gonna make this.
Looks like we have the American coasts represented.
Yes. Yeah, it's all on this side of the globe right now. You guys having a good week so far? Besides
Yes.
the chicken.
Oh gosh, I had an episode with some sushi about a
Oh
month
wow.
and a half ago. Yeah, I bought it, at a grocery store and ate it in the car on my way to my son's girlfriend's graduation as a
Oh.
snack, and the whole weekend I paid
Oh
dearly.
no.
It was awful.
Oh, I'm so sorry to hear that.
Like hopping up to do bathroom runs. It was not fun. But
Oh gosh.
yeah,
Good weekend for
but
food.
yes. So let's hope yours is much shorter lived
Yeah,
and better.
I'm okay now, but yeah, I was up and down all night.
Hey Alexis.
Hello.
Alex,
Hey.
I saw your actually I have to ask Devin about this. I'm gonna try and join your creative the Creative Minds group. Creative Minds, is that what it's called?
The Connected Creative.
Yes, the Connected Creative.
Yeah. Woo!
Yes.
It's gonna be a party and also
Yeah.
really chill.
Nice.
Neil's gonna do that
Cool.
with his free
We'd so love
time.
to have you. Yeah.
And
Heck
one thing, Devin, hey, nice to see you. I was just saying I'm gonna join your Connected Creative on Thursday. Yeah. It's nice that it's on Thursday because when it was on Wednesday, I was just like mind blown after these sessions. But I clicked on your registration link and it brought me to your email. So I subscribed for the email, but I didn't know if there was a registration. I didn't see a registration link come in after that. So I don't know if I'm doing it right.
Great feedback. You're doing it flawlessly. You'll get the link today.
Okay, sweet. Awesome. Very stoked. I also really like the layout of the email. It was really cool. Oh, loving to see that. Very interested to see what happens. I feel like Philip might join us today, but he was on a boat, so he might be still enjoying his time on the boat, which he's well deserved. Kate can't make it and Jane can't make it. So I feel like we should just kick it off and just kind of see what happens. Anybody have any recap from last week? Last week was pretty. Alexis, I don't know if you saw the replay, but we were talking about impactful conversations. Did anything kind of come through for anybody?
I think something really came through for me, and it was the conversation that Dennis and Layla had about leaving the dirt outside the operating room. And as a result of that, I went and got myself both the book and the audio book of Jamie Smart, Clarity.
Yeah, nice.
Because, yeah, and I'm finding, I'm only like in chapter 1, but finding it so helpful in terms of trying to empty all the noise in my head around my next steps. And it's interesting coming. I want to at some point have a conversation with Jane because she came from teaching as I am. And I think something that she shared also about the ability to clear all of your own stuff out of the way and meet the student where they are. This is very, very much a practice of mine in my cello teaching in my private studio, but I didn't actually connect that it's a skill that's vital to coaching as well. So that was a wonderful session because I went back and listened to it. You know, I was in and out, so I went back and listened to the whole thing 2 times this
Oh,
week.
nice.
Yeah.
Awesome. That's killer. That's fantastic. You're a
Yeah.
pro now at that session. That's great. I wish that I'm gonna try and if anybody does that in these sessions and you have notes, you take notes or anything from it,
Mhm.
feel free to email me those notes because I'd love them to add to emails or anything like that. Kind of give people more detail.
Sure.
One thing I'd like to ask, just because you're new, Alicia, and just for everybody, everyone kind of knows this already, but just use the hand raising icon when you want to talk, because then it just kind of filters everything into an order. Do you know how to use that, Alicia? Okay, cool. Just so we're all on the same page. That's all I ask.
Right. And I'll mute now.
Okay, it's okay, yeah, and it's I'm just keeping everybody in. Especially if there's lots of people, it starts to turn into like a situation. One thing I wanted to say that I thought was very true about what you're saying, Alicia, is and that Devin had pointed out earlier too, it's kind of like how you empty yourself for the call. Like the more empty we are going into the call, the better. I actually kind of like made the mistake a little while ago of working with a client and suggesting that we do like a game at the beginning of the call. And it kind of brought this energy into the call where we talked about that rather than what the person wanted to talk about at first. And like they were fine with it, but I felt like it added this thing that just didn't need to be there. So it is great to just kind of like go into the call and just see where it goes first before you add any of yourself into it. Dennis.
First of all, Alicia, I want you to know how deeply that honors me that some insight I had to share made a difference for you. That's a big deal, especially since the further I get into this, the more I realize I'm winging it at this point. You know, I know some stuff, but I don't know all that stuff. And part of my journey right now is I have been aware of, we have a 5-year-old in the house, and he's a little bit autistic, and he's a character, and sometimes he just like just goes off the deep end. And what I've been aware of recently is sorting out what my feelings are about the situation, as opposed to simply dealing with what it is that he's dealing with. Because you can go and you can take yourself and you can interject yourself into a setting, and it really makes shit muddy. You know, it really makes it horrible. But if you could stop and step back and look at what's going on without your, oh my God, I'm feeling this, I'm feeling that, wait a minute, this isn't about me right now. You know, it's trying to understand what's going on over there. And so thank you. That's just a big privilege that I could say something that you found useful.
Nice. Devin.
Good to see you guys. Dennis, first of all, love the shirt. I wanted to share something with what you just mentioned of like there's an element of making it up. And there was a moment when I was every year I go on this trip with my dad and his best friend, and his best friend runs an office, has multiple associates and all of this stuff. And we hit this point, and I don't know what it was. It was like we like portage around waterfalls and rapids and stuff like this. We go on canoe trips. And he said this one line and it stuck with me. And he's like, that's what being a boss means, being able to improv.
Mm.
And it was just like, yeah, there's a lot of the times it is uncharted. We are kind of making it up, but it's trusting ourselves to be able to make it up. And that's what I took away from it. I wanted to celebrate that I actually used one of the questions from the guide, and it landed me the best referral that I've ever gotten. So this stuff was working. Imagine that.
That's awesome. That's fantastic. What was the kind of the context?
Yeah,
You
the
want to share
context
with-
was it was a former client. She was interested in working with me again and mentioned that she was not in a place to financially. And I was like, great, well, I have this slot. Again, one of the practices is kind of having those spots open on my calendar and then just filling them, whether they're a paid client or someone that I'm creating into a client. So I filled that, gave her a session. It was super, super powerful. She ended up reaching back out to me, and I'll just cut to the point. At the end of it, I was like, well, I'm not going to ask her to be my client. I know where she's not. That wouldn't serve her right now. And it caught my mind that there's this little question in that guide, and it's basically like, hey, if you were to think of the most inspiring, badass people in your life that are up to something, does anyone come to mind that would benefit from having a coaching conversation like this?
Mm.
So I asked it, and then she reached out like a few days later, and she was like, actually, I went out to lunch with this woman, and you guys would be a great fit. And she told me all the reasons, and she was like, and she works with like really high level people, so don't be afraid to put a price tag on it. It's like, great.
That's fantastic. That's so good. That's such a good that dovetails into what we're doing right now. So that's fantastic. Well, with that kind of energy, we should kick this off. We'll kick this chapter off. Does anyone have anything they want to talk about with that? Maybe before I kick, like I'd like to kick it off, but is there anything that anyone wants to say in reference to what Devin was saying there? Or should we just go for it? Okay.
One little addendum. At first, she said no one came to mind. So just for how these things can work, and asking without any expectation, but also seeing the process. It was like, oh, it was 3 days before she went out to lunch and was like, oh, you should talk to them. Just for how that might work for you guys.
Totally. Yes lives in the land of no. That's fantastic. Okay. Okay, cool. Okay, well, I'm going to jump into this. I know that my email was super long, as it is usually. It's like a bit of a book. But I just wanted to I don't know why this always comes up here. One of the things I wanted to talk about was Earl Nightingale. Did anybody get a chance to check out Earl Nightingale? Nice. That's awesome. Did anybody listen to his Strangest Secret audio book? No? Okay, cool. That's so one of the things that I find really fascinating about this, that I'm maybe just going to share quickly, is that so there's this fascinating thing to me where Think and Grow Rich is such an impactful book, and it just seems to stretch into everything. And Earl Nightingale got his start by reading Think and Grow Rich. It just hit him. And it set him on his kind of path of essentially a lot of what we learn in the three principles, which is like it all comes from inside. It all comes with how we think. It all comes from what we create in our thinking. That's kind of was Earl Nightingale's thing. And tell me if you guys can hear this.
Instead of competing, all we have to do is create.
Can you hear that? Okay, so he talks about I'm just going to play a little bit of this for you.
To do. The success is the successful salesman who wants to become a top-notch salesman and grow and build with his organization. A success is anyone who is doing deliberately a predetermined job because that's what he decided to do deliberately. But only 1 out of 20 does that. That's why today there isn't really any competition unless we make it for ourselves. Instead of competing, all we have to do is create. Now, for 20 years, I looked for the key which would determine what would happen to a human being. Was there a key I wanted to know which would make the future a promise that we could foretell to a large extent? Was there a key that would guarantee a person's becoming successful if he only knew about it and knew how to use it? Well, there is such a key, and I found it. Have you ever wondered why so many men work so hard and honestly without ever achieving anything in particular, and others don't seem to work hard and yet seem to get everything? They have the magic touch. You've heard them say that about someone. Everything he touches turns to gold. And have you ever noticed that a man who becomes successful tends to continue to become successful? And on the other hand, have you noticed how a man who is a failure tends to continue to fail? It's because of goals. Some of us have them, some don't. People with goals succeed because they know where they're going. Now think of a ship leaving a harbor and think of it with the complete voyage mapped out and planned.
So basically, he's like, if you listen to the rest of it, he's kind of, I wanted to just do that, show you that part where he talks about creating. He also talks about kind of having this decisive reason for doing things. If you decide to do it, you have a much better chance of succeeding. And I think that ties into this chapter. Like, I think that's why he talks about this stuff. It's Rich, I think. Yeah, it's Rich. Why he uses Earl Nightingale. Because if you kind of dig into Earl Nightingale, you realize that he talks about creating your future. He talks about doing it decisively and about not doing it the way that is kind of like mass marketed to you, making a decision and living from that decision. He also talks about how most people live unintentionally. So if you have like if you really have an intention, chances are you're going to be successful. So I just wanted to use that as a way to kind of set the tone here. So hopefully that kind of makes sense. I listened to it. It's also like a gold record, which blows my mind. It's the first record ever that went gold from just speaking. So there's something super powerful about it. And I find this chapter difficult. I still find this chapter difficult. So coaches and consultants come to me when they are ready to create a practice with just a few high-performing, high-paying clients a year. At the beginning, they're a little shocked to learn the following. They don't have to use any traditional marketing. They don't need to create a pipeline to fill. They don't need a website or a business card. They don't have to go to networking events. And their business grows by invitation and referral only. So let's just keep that in mind. My clients create a lifestyle they love with the freedom to do what is most important to them. Some of them may enjoy playing with internet marketing and social media. Many do not. The point is they don't have to. Because the formula that Steve and I teach and use does not involve marketing. It's a formula designed to build a relationship. Not even relationships, plural, just one relationship at a time. Honoring the individuality of the person in front of you. So I'm just going to leave it there. Because I feel like this is like the number one thing that everybody wants to bypass. Like myself included. It's like, what do you want to try and do? You want to, like, it's like, we look at the world in this generalization. Because communication ultimately is difficult. having a single conversation, and also faith is difficult. Having a single conversation with someone and expecting kind of like what Devin acted out, which was, do you know anybody who would like this? And then someone says, no, they don't. And you're like, oh, wow, well, there's not, and then the patience to wait it out. And then something comes to you. So there seems to be a process there. For me, it's like a universal process, like a kind of a faith-based process. But I'd love to know about kind of like what your guys' perception of relationships are, or what you have to kind of say about this particular part of the chapter. Go for it, Devin.
I love, first of all, Earl Nightingale. I was given a box set of like actual cassettes back in the day that changed my life and that are probably the reason that I'm on this call today. One of the most influential thinkers in my life. The thing that it made me think about was, does anyone here have resistance against social media? Like they feel like they should, but like feels kind of icky and not really sure what to say. And yeah, it's something that I see a lot of a lot, and I feel a lot as well. And I've had to like create a relationship with it. Like, how do I have a healthy relationship with this thing that's kind of weird? How can I actually serve with it instead of it just being like a distraction? And it made me think of like, great, there's a lot of focus on content and being content creators and creating content. And it made me think of what is the intent of content. And I had never heard anyone talking about this. I'm like, why? Like, why is it even important to build a big channel? And when I really sat with that, the intent of, this is what I came up with, but the intent of content is conversations. So it's like we could sit there and create 100 posts, or we could create one and go talk to the people that interacted with it. But it's like, what is the intent of content if we're gonna play that game?
I think that's fascinating, man. Like, and I think drilling down into that really is the truth. Like, I had just recently, someone was pointing out on like a reel on Instagram that when someone adds you when someone starts following you, to message them, to like privately message them and be like, hey, like, thanks for following me. Like, what content did you like? Like, how could, is there anything that you'd like to know more about? Like, make it an actual individual conversation, because we really do kind of get into this generalization where we just are almost like just trying to create a big net of how many fish can we get into the net, and then not even really utilizing any of those real people. We're just seeing these numbers. And then, like you're saying, not having powerful, impactful conversations. Like, if someone likes your post or someone comments on them, how can you engage that powerfully so that it goes back to that human level? I really like what Gary Vee says about the internet, that it's just humanity at scale. Like, anything that you're doing is just like, if you're having a regular relation or conversations with people in your day-to-day, the internet's just a way to take that and scale your conversations. How many more conversations can you have? More people in different places. But it really does come down, like Gary Vee talked about like years ago, and I did a little bit of it, was like, go and just comment on everybody's things that you like spend time engaging, just putting the energy out there, because in the end, that's what you're doing. You're actually talking to another human being. It seems like you're talking to a computer, but you're not, or just commenting in a box about a photograph, but there's somebody creating all that, and you could be engaging with them. And then I think that relates to our everyday conversations. Like, we can think of our everyday conversations as just kind of meaningless conversations. You could just have it and move on. But there could be something in there. You could create impact in that conversation. Alicia.
Yeah, what struck me about that question is that there, especially with social media, you have, the people that you know personally that you've actually had in real time interaction with. And then, it's like a concentric circle that just kind of goes out, right? There are the people that you're actually, personally that you're close to. And then, as you say, we move out from there, and then people follow you from, China, and they don't speak English or whatever the case may be. And I'm finding it now, this is going to be a kind of an interesting question that points to a post that Nick made earlier today about, your social media, because I actually have a lot of contacts and I interact with them quite a bit. But again, it's how do you use it in a way that lets people know that you're coaching when you're already established as a certain something else, and that's where I get caught, because that's why I'm working on clarity. Because, I get sort of stuck in, people see me a certain way and I'm active on certain forums and the International Cello Society and cello this and cello that, and, but and oftentimes I'll post things that are quite personal or that might have a political overtone. And I'm thinking, yikes, do I need to go back and scrub my social media and delete posts that, might interfere with people perceiving me as a coach? Or is that an add-on? Or do I just use a professional page? And how you build relationships when you've already got relationships on your personal page and people know you a certain way, then do you then start posting as something else? Because then you have to go through and ask people to, I get really tired of a lot of musicians who just friend request you so that you'll go and like their page, and then you never have an interaction with them. You never do have a conversation. And by the same token, I've met people through social media that I can actually say are friends now, who I've DM'd back and forth and sent, voice memos to, and they send them to me, and we have conversations and even a few Zoom conversations, which is wonderful, but I've never thought of it as, they're a potential client. I'm trying to create relationships because that's what I love. And I love getting to know people and I love going deep. This is why this group is like a gold mine, because no one here is afraid to express themselves in clear and articulate ways. And I've learned so much just hanging out with all of you. So I wondered if anyone had some insights into that, because, that I don't think I'm like at a point to, I'm not yet real clear on what it is I'm going to offer, but except my knowledge and understanding and years of experience and, blah, blah, blah. But have any of you had experience with kind of shifting your focus, and what does that look like? And do I have to go and delete half of what I've posted in the past? So I'm curious. I want to know, how does that social media and play into this chapter, Rich is saying, you don't need any of it. And I guess I need a little convincing.
I can weigh in, but I'd like to hear other people first too. So if anybody has something to say along those lines. Alexis.
Hello.
Oh.
Yeah, this is it's so good. It's so good because I've been in this and I've moved myself through it quite a bit because when I decided to keep my personal Instagram and have it become my business platform, that was really shaky for me. I was like, these are all personal interactions. All of these posts are my history. And now I'm just like claiming to be a coach. Like all these people are going to be like, what the fuck are you doing? Right. So there's a lot of ownership in it. And how many followers you already have, there could be so many people in there who are like, wait, this is great. I actually do want to see what you're up to. And it's like a divine invitation for people who aren't accepting you in your new identity, your new era to like kindly walk out the door, right? Like cleans the house. And one thing from personal experience of investing in other coaches is I really enjoy seeing others have personal posts. I want to get to know the human that I'm working with. I don't just want their business stuff because once it's only business, I'm like, but who are you underneath all of this? Like for me, it's all about trust, but I'm a very sensitive creature. So I'm like, let me see you folding laundry. Like, what does your room look like? Like tell me about your health or like something that's going on a deep level for you because it builds that know, like, and trust inside of your social media. However, when it's only personal, then we're not really stepping into the ownership and leadership of selling and being in the business, right? And creating impactful content. So it's this like wave, right? It's like letting people in, and then it's like, and now I'm stepping into my leadership and this is what I'm doing. And the last piece is the embodiment, right? People seeing you in your leadership. And what's fun is actually to scroll down to the bottom of some of the people you look up to because you get to see their transformation. Your entire feed is your evolution, and that builds trust too. So if you scroll down through mine, you're like, oh my God, you're just a hippie on the beach. And now, wait, what are you doing? And you see like the change in my voice and you see the change in the videos, all the things. And because I thought the same thing, I was like, I have to delete all my personal posts. I have to clean this whole thing up. I'm attached, all this stuff. And I might have archived a few things that just felt like a little bit too old or not in the frequency, but I think it's okay to keep some flavor in there because we want to get to know you too.
Thank you. That's
Helpful.
really helpful. Because, I've spent so much of my life as a teacher and a mom, and a wife, and, there's just all of that. And I love people seeing pictures of my kids and my family and, my husband that is just an amazing person. And so to kind of wipe it all away to be a coach seems so disingenuous to me because we are whole people. And if you can't bring your whole self to your business, and I mean, I think that's like, to be completely transparent, in my humble opinion, it's what's wrong with so much in the world right now. So if we're going to truly be revolutionary, you have to be your authentic self, or no one's going to buy what you're selling. So that's how I felt. And it's really, really nice to hear it voiced by, younger people too, because this old lady wants to be, I've spent most of my life hiding. So I would like to not hide anymore.
Yeah.
We want to see you.
Yeah, we want to see you 100%. Devin, you have to say something about that too?
Absolutely. Oh, Alicia, that was so good. I actually want to encourage you to watch this replay and go back about a minute for when you started. There were a few things that you said. One was like, I've spent so much of my life hiding. Epic piece to riff on and create this kind of like reintroduction of yourself. And then the other piece where that it was the beginning of another sentence where you said, you know, I've been a teacher, I've been a mother, been all of these things. And I feel like that would be a great place to go. And I want to introduce you to what I'm stepping into moving forward. So I don't think you need to go cancel a bunch of that stuff. You don't need to invalidate all of those parts of yourself. You just get to introduce a new piece of yourself. And then something else that I heard was you're not entirely sure of like what your offering is and clarity with what that might look like. It might be helpful to have that feel solid, have that next step, have that core offer feel solid before you kind of reintroduce yourself. And then I'll leave off with like a little tactical piece. If you were to think, you know how you see a lot of like I help statements. I'm not saying you should or shouldn't do this, but if you were to have some sort of statement with, you know, pointing towards how you help people and pointing towards your new offering, I would just think of that as the filter and keep that in mind. And then all the content should kind of be relevant and support that. And it can be showing parts of your personal life. It can be showing client results. It can be showing parts of your belief systems or your tools, but it should all kind of match that mission statement. And then, yeah, if you want, just archive things that are like, okay, I guess this is a little off brand and doesn't really serve the person that's going to be watching this. Hope that helps.
Absolutely. Does help. Thank you.
One thing I found for myself has been being able to merge my different kind of identities together. That's been an interesting part for me. Like even the sense outside of coaching, like I have a jazz drum kit here, and then at Layla's house I have an R&B drum kit. My jazz friends are like, "What are you doing playing R&B music?" My R&B friends are like, "Jazz? Like, what are you, some like snobby motherfucker?" Like they're like, and you know, then I play piano too. So drummers are like, "Well, do you think you're better than us?" You know what I mean? Like there's like, and then I also compose music. So sometimes then the players are like, "Oh, you're a composer. Like you're not like the rest of us." So there's like being able to, and that's just one element of my life. Plus I'm a business person and I care about money. Artists don't even like that. So there's many elements of who I am as a person that are all coexisting that could, when they're projected onto others, appear like they don't work together. But I love them. They are all parts of me, right? So being able to like show pieces of who I am to the rest of the world, whether it's on social media or whether it's in different friend groups or with different people, sometimes can be difficult. Like I also study like different religious texts from all over the place. And my friends who are into Hinduism hate the fact that I like Christianity. Like, you know, there's like all these different places where people can have like battle lines and choose like, oh, you're like, how can you be this and that at the same time? And I'm like, how can you not be these things at the same time? Like how, like, you know, why are you stopping short of this, like this wholeness? So, and I had a conversation with Nick about this yesterday about that. I was like, man, and it was like identity, until he was like, you know, we've been talking about identity in different ways for like half an hour. Thanks, Sam. And he was like, and then we turned to clarity, like to Jamie Smart's book. It was like, you know, this whole identity piece is like kind of a bit of a contaminated thinking piece. Like when you kind of move it out of the way, like what's left? It's like, well, just clarity of self, just like just existing, just kind of this Zen space, you know? So, and ultimately, what am I doing as a coach? Well, my favorite thing to do as a coach is bring people to a place of like recognizing their inner clarity or their inner wholeness. So all these different what appears to be fractious things, when they're whole, when I show them as a whole, which is difficult sometimes. I've had to, like Alexis has said, I've had to move through a lot of revealing different things. And like you said, I had a conversation with Mary on Monday, and I realized I'm still hiding. I have put out so much of myself into the world, so much, still hiding. You know, it's crazy to be like, wow, there's still more in here that isn't being turned inside out and shown to the world that would be useful, that would create more relationships, connect me to more people, show people more of my history. So I think that there's kind of like, and like kind of the way that Devin is putting it, like Layla says too, there's a power in hiding. Like you don't have to like you get to choose when you reveal. And like Devin is saying, like when you have the kind of the pieces together and you know what the motto, the mission statement is, the current philosophy, and you're revealing things like in relationship to that, it can create some congruency. So I wouldn't say it's too bad. Like, and also like when you were talking, I was thinking about, have you ever seen a banana tree grow? A banana tree looks like it dies every time it grows, and then this new sprout grows out of it, and then that dies and it becomes the husk, and a new one grows out of it. It's so trippy. Like I owned a banana tree, and I was like, my banana tree is dying, and I brought it to like a plant shop, and they're like, nah, man, this is just a banana tree. This is how it works. And I was like, really? This is right. It's kind of crazy. So I don't know. Whenever you're thinking, oh man, this is like I don't know, that I'm revealing this new identity and everything looks like it's dying. It's not. It's just it's creating the husk that allows the next one to kind of grow. So that's my take on it. Do we want to bandy this around a little bit more? Or should I kind of move on? Okay, right. Let's keep going because I think this gets into a really good piece. Okay. So we did this part. So these days I coach 3 days a week and I have a marketing budget of $0. I have 5 one-on-one clients. I take 2 months of vacation a year and I coach mainly by phone, which gives me the freedom to travel anywhere in the world. But life wasn't always like that. I think this is an important piece here, and especially for like Alicia, like you were saying, for much of my working life, I was a teacher. So Rich, like he knows, I was an employee, working for others, working long, long hours for a paycheck that never changed unless I sought a promotion, which I did regularly, only to discover that often the more I earned, the less I was able to do what I really love. I personally, as a teacher, have been there. Fortunately, it turned out one day a new boss arrived who wanted her own leadership team, and because I was one of the most recent hires, I was let go. I think this is a really important piece for everybody who thinks that there's security in being an employee. There's not necessarily security in being an employee. But this is like a banana tree moment. But soon I was using some of the coaching skills I had learned as an educational leader. Later, I became a full-time coach and trained with some of the world's best coaches. I became better and better at coaching. Now, this is also an interesting piece because he became better and better at coaching, yet I earned just $4,500 in my first year as a coach. This is something I was thinking about today when I was like, man, you know, I'm not hitting that earning power. Something wasn't working, so I hired a marketing expert and a search engine optimization expert. And I earned just $22,500 in my second year as a coach, and I hated the boring marketing tasks that I was required to do. So I began to do things differently. And just before we go on, especially Devin and Alicia, because you guys, you know, you're pretty into this. Have you hired marketing people? Have you had a marketing coach? Alicia, you've had a marketing coach too. Okay, cool. Let's get some hand raising. Let's see who wants to talk on this subject. You go for it, Alicia. Yeah.
Yeah, actually, I did that before I found Nick. It was a year ago. It was December of 2022, actually. And I began the course at the very end of the year. And it was, you've probably even seen it on Facebook, the Musician's Profit Umbrella.
Oh.
And I thought, oh, I'll just create a course and do this thing. And I tell you what, I dipped into my retirement savings. This course was a bundle. And there were 30 people in this course. So there was no, I mean, you could, before the classes, you could go on a spreadsheet and like write your question, and then she would answer the question in your class and then do like a 5-minute spotlight on you, and you'd get a little bit of coaching about basically selling. And it was all about funnels and marketing and social media and having a page, and then having the page have a group, and then a funnel, and this and that. But about halfway through, I realized I didn't have any solid idea of what I actually wanted to sell. And she was pushing me in the direction of creating a course for adult amateur cellists. And I was like, I don't want to teach the cello online to people who've never had lessons. It's not my forte. It's not the thing that lights me up. It's not, but there, and once I verbalized that, it was like, it was like being written off. And so at that point, I got very little attention after that. And I realized that I had put the cart before the horse, so to speak. And, I won't say that I didn't learn. I learned a lot. I'm not sure in the end how useful it is or how authentic it feels. And again, I'm brought back to, I'm not interested in I don't have any objection to marketing and selling. My father was the vice president of marketing for a huge American company. I grew up with this in my DNA. And certainly as a teacher, as a private studio teacher, I've had to learn how to get my services out there and have people know about me. But I have something solid behind that, and what Devin was saying earlier about being more solid about what it is I want to do. So I knew at that moment that, this was maybe not the best 20 grand I ever spent. That was a lot of money.
For sure. For sure. It is a lot of money to spend. Yeah, and
Yeah.
and it's a lot of money to spend to realize that if you don't have a good product, like if you don't know what your product is, the marketing doesn't really. But there's a lot of people who market without a product. Like they set up their marketing scheme. A lot of people, those marketing people will say, the product doesn't matter. The marketing is what matters. And if you can stay one step ahead of your
exactly. That's what she kept saying. Well, just create it as you go along, like just get the people. And then I was like, what people? They're not even the people that I want to work with. I don't want to work with them in that way. And you're pushing me to do that. And for whose glory is that? Is that so you can do a spotlight on me as a great success in your program? It just did not ring true. So I did finish the course. I downloaded everything that I could download, and I have it and I've kept it. But, it has to be, and then about 4 months before I finished the program, I ran across Nick. last, what? I don't know, must have been last fall. And I thought, what is this guy doing? He's so real. And that's how I came to all of you, because it was the questions he asked. And it was the way that he wrote. And I thought, I don't know what he's doing, but I think that's more the direction I want to go in, whatever that is, this coaching. What is this? So here I am. And yeah, but that was a rather expensive investment. I'd say it in quotes. It was a rather expensive way to find out that maybe there are other ways to go about this, because I'm much more interested in building relationships with people and being effective.
I like that. That might be that right there. I think that you're speaking into creation your things right here in the conversation, Alicia, which is great. I do hope I hope that in the same way that you went through the previous call, I hope you go back through this and hear yourself speaking it to yourself, because I think you're creating your business plan on this call, which is fantastic. Alexis, you also see what you have to say.
Yeah, wow. All of this resonates. As always. It's really interesting because I've also invested quite a bit in other coaches, and what it keeps coming back to, and in the end, it's like, what works for you, right? Your energy type, what lights you up, what feels like it's spacious, or what do you have the capacity for? It's interesting with these coaches that are like, make this funnel and this amazing program, and then you get 100 people to sign up for it, and there's like $400,000, right, in 30 days or whatever. But if you back up, it's like, do you have the engagement that would make that work? Like, where are you on your timeline in your business, right? And these are all reflections that I'm having, and I think of often, because I've tried to do that, and then there's like so many flops, and I'm like, it's not working, and I'm like, okay, right? So it's interesting that we're here and we're working with this different style of like, what will support you best right now with your capacity, the support that you have, the support that you can give yourself. Do you even have team members? Because like launching and running all these funnels and all that stuff, it's so much business mental side apart from being the coach that creates it. Like there's so many hats. And so right now, personally, I'm like focusing on like one-to-one clients, stabilizing the income. How can that then relieve my time, right? How can then I feel more spacious? How then maybe I start to make a course, and how then I get more engagement, and then I'm showing up because I'm feeling good and I'm sleeping better. And it's like, but that's like for me, right? Maybe some people are like course creators and they love that and they can show up for it. I wrote down like, what can you show up for 100%? So if course creation is your thing and you can show up with that energy and you have that like generator mindset where you're just like going and going, you're like, yeah, in production, and people feel you through the screen if you're using social, because we're all in the social world, then that could be successful for you. So it's really tough when there's like this whole one size fits all. And it's like, let's take a look at the individual in front of us, the individual inside of us. Like what works for you right now in your business? So that's what, I don't know, reflections I'm currently having.
I 100% agree with that. That way too of looking at things is, in my opinion, a healthier model that has more depth and more longevity. Though at the beginning, it can feel like it's not going very far, very fast. When it really is moving very, very quickly, it's just like seeds in the soil. Like you don't know that the seeds are growing and things are happening because you just can't see it yet. If Kate was here, I think that she would really weigh in on that about, and I felt it too, about people coming to me, like I've said in previous sessions, coming to me jam sessions, or a lot of people now talk to me about what I'm doing with this coaching thing, you know? And it's at the stage where people are curious about it. They don't know what it is. They know that there's been a new thing I'm adding to my kind of list of things that I do. They don't quite grasp what it is yet. And I know that that's a piece, like that's a rung on the ladder. And there's going to be a point in time where everyone knows that's what I do and they kind of understand what it is, you know? And as that happens, I think there'll be more and more situations where people go, oh, and Neil does this thing, and I think that this would really work for you, or this would really work for me, you know? It's a bit, rather than having this funnel where you're just trying to collect everybody together and like you say, not have like a strong determining factor. Another thing I wanted to speak to just before we go on to it, which has happened for me, is and having a conversation with Mary the other day accentuated it, talking to Nick accentuated it, is being bold enough to state what you actually want to do as a coach. You know, like, are you, as a coach, do you want to just do whatever, you know? Like, oh, nice. Layla's jumping in here. I feel like Layla will have something to say about this too, but like, so like what I want to be able to do besides and what I do, hey Layla, what I do want to do and find the most successful for myself as a coach is to work with people who are really high functioning and help them a lot, primarily with their belief systems. Sometimes with their, seems a lot of the time it moves to like spiritual belief systems. And being able to own that, like to really own what it is that you feel like you have an expertise in. And even that can be a little bit uncomfortable to do. To be like, I'm a coach and this is like my exact kind of niche. Or like, this is the niche that I like spiral out of. It's not the only thing that I can do for you, but it's kind of like ground zero. Sometimes that can be difficult because then you have to admit that, and then look for the people around you who would benefit from that, or be able to speak to people who you think would benefit from that, and then ask them if they know anyone who would benefit from that, from those specific kinds of things. So those can be kind of like a difficult, just to admit it. Layla, we're kind of talking about building relationships and how there's like, let's see if everyone agrees with this, but there's kind of like, there's the marketing side of funnels and all that stuff, and the kind of the generalization of marketing. And then there is kind of focusing in on and building relationships with people, and then creating outwards from relationships. So it's kind of like a bottom-up approach rather than like a top-down approach. But maybe you should, just to kind of spark something, Layla right now has been having individual conversations with people for her new program that she's doing on The Voice. So she's been speaking with people directly. Do you want to talk about that, Layla? I know I'm kind of putting you on the spot, but like I always do. I'm like, hello, welcome. If you want to just like get comfortable,
do you mean like how The Voice, that's a TV show? No, not The Voice, that's a TV show. Who put that down? Devin. No, the inner voice, the inside, the whisper, the intuition, the place that The Voice. That's funny. You made me laugh. Yeah, so if I understand this, where you guys are at, I put out this initiative because I realized that there's this niche little point that I found within my birth work and within my private voice students that was more along the lines of music voice, where we really actually wind up getting into the inner voice and mindset and paradigm, because that's really what can make or break what comes out, you know, whether it's our creativity, our business, our relationships. And I started realizing that people who were, say, registering themselves to doing like breath work or like yoga and all these things, that the goal is connection. The goal is inner and interconnectivity. And here I was sitting on this pile of experience where I've witnessed people being so lost in their own thoughts, and so, it's just lost is the right word, or stuck, or maybe just afraid. And then we dive into stuff, and eventually they're like, either in my birth work, they're feeling fully empowered of how they're supporting themselves to experience their birth from a support-based mindset, as opposed to managing everything or wanting everything managed based on fear. And then that started applying into my my vocal students, where it was like, well, how can you sing? You have a beautiful voice, but you're afraid to sing. Why? Because you want to sit there and manage the entire experience out there and in here. Like, it doesn't work. It's really frustrating, and we're disconnected when we're managing. So I started realizing that was the little like niche piece of like, if I was gonna call myself something, it's not a singing teacher, because we were doing so much more than just strictly singing. Like, out of 4 sessions per month, we've actually sing once. And that was like, and I started saying no to people who would be like, I want voice lessons. I'd be like, well, that's not me. We're not going to do do re mi every day and work on your scales. Like, I'll give you that. You can do that on your own. But when we get together, we're going to talk about all the stuff that sits behind it. So I created this offering, much inspired. Devin, that lady, holy crap, Mary Shakun. Oh my goodness, she just shot an arrow into my own inner voice. And we have a chat next week, which I'm so scared shitless of, but that's okay. I'm also super excited when I'm scared shitless. And she inspired me to do this thing that I had like come to months ago, that was like, Layla, in that way that like you get the whispers of the inner voice, right? Layla, you gotta teach, you gotta give this rooted temple, which is the name of my offering, to more people than just private sessions. And part of it is inspired by Neil and this group, in that we all get, thanks Dennis, we all get so much, I feel we all get so much by even just like witnessing each other's stuff and each other's thoughts. And I was like, wow, so this is actually, and then I sat with that thought for like 3 or 4 months, just being like, how can I do this? No way, I'm not capable, blah, 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 blah. All the things that that I teach other people to not listen to. I was literally like, oh my God, I have to work harder. And I decided bravely, an hour or 2 after we had that meeting with Mary Shakun, I put it up online. I was like, fuck it. I'm not going to resist anymore. I'm just going to do it and see what happens. And I did it. And I have received such an overwhelming amount of response and interest that I decided to take a step back and do what, Neil, I think what you guys are talking to, which is the relationships. And I decided to offer 2 conversations that are twofold. One, a lot of people approaching me were at so many different levels, and I could tell that I was like, okay, wait, I actually need to curate this group. It can't just be anyone and everyone who wants to join, because it's so important that each person is is committed, doing the work, showing up, ready to listen, ready to share. Like it needs a particular kind of person. So I was like, okay, first of all, I got to meet these people. Second of all, I'm just gonna not only meet them and figure out who they are for this group, but I want to meet people. Like I want to, wow, there's so many people who seem to feel that they could use support. I'm ready. I'm here. I want to meet people. And it's like I just literally had a conversation, which is why I wasn't here at 11. It's like every conversation that I'm having, these people are withdrawing what they need, and we're creating that relationship of trust. We're like cultivating that. Every single person that I've spoken to has agreed. Almost every single one, I should say. One was so scared that she almost like ran away on the call. That's okay. But almost every single person that I've spoken to has agreed within the call, at the end of the call, to the second conversation. And we booked it in the calendar. So in terms of like that like selling thing, or that piece of like, you know, I've surrendered to it being like, well, I'm going to hopefully curate a group. I'm also open to people taking me on as a private person, which I already am doing. So I'm open to new clients, like opening myself up to new potentially private clients. But also on the backside of it, just making friends, because if I gift these 2 conversations and they're deep and we go fucking far, and I recognize it's my time, and like I could be that person that's like, no, like pay me now. But even if those people by the end of the second conversation just go along their way with anything I've gifted them and anything I've given to them and anything they've given me in terms of experience, it would be completely opposite of my own mindset for me to think that I should be managing what the outcome is. So I'm ready for the relationships. I'm supporting myself. So I'm staying really strong and centered in myself to be able to give those moments, trusting that I'm cultivating relationships, even if the outcome isn't what I see it or want it right in the now, accepting that would be me coming from a management place where I'm afraid of no income or my time being wasted, or, you know, and just seeing all that and being like, okay, well, if I'm truly just here for what I'm trying to offer, then I need to sit in that and build friendship and trust.
Actually, that's why I wanted you to talk about it, Layla, because we also talked about, you're doing the work. We had talked about too, about how you're showing the people, not selling selling the experience. So you're in the call, really doing the transformative work.
Yeah,
We
like
spoke together. That was kind of the process, was to get on the call, move people.
They are literally crying. Like every first conversation that I have with people, these people are in tears because of the things that we get into, and that exact thing, Neil. And thank you so much for being so wise about that, because it's like people don't know what this is. They're kind of like, they're coming towards it, but they're like, but what is this actually? And it's like, well, let's have a chat. and I know in my own self that we will go, you know, because of maybe the confidence that we can build in ourselves of our capacity. You know, that was big too, but Neil, like trusting I can do this. Like I remember when I was having my first one of it, and I was like freaking out. Like, what if I don't hear what they need? What if I miss it? What if I heaven forbid fail? It's like, well, hold on. I'm obviously going to grow and learn. This is obviously a moment of growth for me just as much as it is for other people. And then just leaning into that trust that like, you can do this, you can do it, you know how to do it, you can do it with anyone who's willing, you know. And can hear them and yeah, support them as they try to support themselves. That's why they're coming to you, because they're ready. Like, they're not just coming to you out of the blue. They're like interested. So they're already the ones. I had to remind myself of that too. And Neil helped me, like, you really supported me in being like, these people walk to us. They come toward us because of what they're, if we're presenting that authenticity and that truth and that service, they're attracted for a reason. Then we just all we have to do is be like, right, I'm not lying about what I can do. I'm not deceiving. This is not some weird dark hole of marketing crap. I'm giving something.
Yeah, it was really good in the sense of when Layla and I had kind of talked about it was, and it's another reason why I wanted you to kind of talk about it, Layla, because you're going about it person by person and curating this thing. Like, it's conversation by conversation, and then in each conversation creating the energy and the experience for the people. So there's no bullshit. There's no like marketing funnel in the sense of, oh, just wait, but before we tell you about that, let me tell you about this, and like all those webinars you ever see where it's like, just get to the point. It's really is like, let's jump on a call. Let's shift things now. This is what you can expect, but on a larger level. Let's take this homework with you. Let's reconvene. ShamWow. What's a ShamWow exactly?
Infomercials from the 90s on repeat for hours for the win.
Oh yeah, okay, for sure. The stuff I used to fall asleep to when I was on psychedelics. Yeah. So I really thought that was great, Layla, because and also I think that let's keep going because that dips into what Rich Litvin talks about next, which I think is really cool. Where is it here?
No, can I chime in for a sec?
Yeah, absolutely, man.
Layla, thank you for coming, and I love that you were on another call before this, just living it, doing it, putting it into action. The thing that I kept hearing as the through line is expression. You help people be expressed. And I don't know if that resonates with you as some sort of like, you're an expression coach or self-expression coach. It probably doesn't even matter. That's just like a label to help people understand. But it sounds like that's the thing that you're helping people do with their voice and musicianship. But I also feel like it's the same sort of work that you do with your doula work. And then I feel like there's maybe a hidden element here of there are a lot of people, like how many times on this call, actually, you wouldn't know, but the others, how many times have you heard like, oh yeah, I've been hiding, not showing myself, and especially online. So it's not even just the voice with music, but it's like people that have a message that want to express themselves, but are just like, food for thought.
Yeah, 100% Devin. And it's really the way that I've framed it for my own self to understand what I'm doing is it is about the inner voice, the one that we hide from and then we hide out here, or the one that we silence and then we feel silenced out here, or the one we ignore, the one we thwart, the one we fight with, the one that we get confused about it. And there's so many things in our world that, out there and inside, it's so many, right? It's like inside, outside, there's so many places that the thing that I almost always wind up getting into in the first one is talking about the distinction. And I think we've all talked about it a couple times, about what we're really for and what we're really against, because it's so easy to put up what we don't want and what we're not, so like I'm hiding because I don't want to be seen, or I don't want this, or I'm protecting, and these concepts of safety and all this stuff. It's like, but what are we actually for? And when we can see what we're for, that starts to like get us into that inner voice place, that starts to like open up the avenues. So yeah, inevitably, Devin, on the outside, you do wind up expressing, but sometimes it's actually more of what's silent. It's more of what's going on. Yeah, at least that's where, oh, he disappeared. Maybe he's still there, but
Sorry,
that's where.
yeah, it's like connecting to your inner voice, and then you express it if you want, but
Yeah, the expression, I mean to say, comes out in more ways than just our voice, like our actual, like this blah blah blah, like, yeah, the expression is sometimes
totally. Sometimes people are like, they don't want to put the body too much, you know what I mean? Like they're not connecting with,
or they
just
do this.
there.
This is one, people do this because they think that that's about, and I'm always like, how? We're literally blocking our heart chakra. How is that about me? It's actually, we should be doing this, or something like, wow, I resonate. I'm here. Anyways, yeah, he disappeared, Devin.
I think he just shut his. I think he meant to mute and shut down the camera. But let's see if we can just slide through this last part here. So we fired the marketing experts. That's where we had gotten to before. And I put my attention on people and relationships instead of money and attracting clients. And everything began to change. The popularity of social media had somehow made me forget that it's all about relationships. And I really like this. I think about this quite a bit. I try to keep this in mind. My great-grandparents were refugees from Eastern Europe. They built a clothing company in Waterloo Station in London, England, about 80 years ago. They didn't have the internet or email or Google AdWords. If you came into their store, they got to know you. They asked interested questions, and they learned what you liked and what you didn't like. They took down your details, and if some clothing item you might like came into the store, they contacted you. Great businesses have always known that the magic is in building great relationships. Coaching is no different, and for you in your career, that is very good news. So yeah, it's kind of, it's great to kind of hear him say that there's no gimmick. You know what I mean? To the whole process. It's pretty straightforward. It's just whether you're willing to kind of build that. It's like the same thing as having a little business in Waterloo. Your person comes through the door, and then another person comes through the door, and you're not really necessarily going out and finding people. Maybe you are doing a little bit of that, telling people about your clothing company. But for the most part, it's about the interaction once you actually meet the person. And then how they kind of become an agent of change. And how that affects other people as well. But I think maybe a question I want to ask is, how does that, have you had that effect happen to you? Like, have people in the sales world built relationships with you, and how did that feel? Could you reverse engineer that? Okay, so that the fact that
I have an example of that piano lady at our music store, Neil. We've developed a great relationship. She sent me an email the other day that was like, I think I found the case and the case you were looking for, and I think I also, there's this keyboard with 70 blah blah blah. She gave me, is that kind of, yeah, that was very cool.
yeah, that's like That's like PJ, the drum, in the drum department. Thank God that guy is in this town. Holy smokes. Like honestly, he's the only like Layla and I live in this small town. It's like 250,000 people, and PJ comes from the big the closest bigger city where I used to live, and he's friends with the drum tech that I used to go to all the time in Vancouver. And he's like, I'm the new Shane. Shane was the drum tech's name in Vancouver, who I always went to see. And he's like, yeah, I'm trying to bring the energy that Shane had, in Vancouver to here. And I was like, thank God. Because he really does care. He posts things and sends things to me. Though one thing I wanted to say, and maybe this is breaking things open for you guys. So if someone does feel like that to you, if not, just kind of tying back to that Earl Nightingale audio recording, how he talks about there's no competition. Most people are not trying to create those relationships. They're doing the funnel thing. Devin, go for it.
This is so good. I wanted to bring up this trend that I see, which is there's a lot of focus on people building their audiences and creating content. And if we look back to the initial Earl Nightingale quotes, like, yeah, look at what everyone's doing and go the exact opposite way. Well, what I'm seeing right now is content is not working the way that it used to because because of AI, especially. Let's just talk about that. It's kind of the elephant in the room. It's like it can be so much more carefully curated. Everyone has access to like a B+ copywriter and can repurpose content so that it's being flooded with content. People are overwhelmed and everything looks shinier than ever. And it's just like they can be saying all the right things, but if you actually go the opposite way and put the social back in social media, and it's really rare. And the piece that I wanted to share was like, it feels like we have an option to go for depth or scale. And I think there's a way to do both, but the Prosperous Coach method is depth and it has authenticity and just like focused on that person in front of you. And I think the main market is going for scale with like how big is our list, how tight is our message, how great is our branding. I think the power and fulfillment is in depth.
And what, like, to connect, I think you're so right, Devin, and that's actually why I really like this space and why I reintroduced it publicly. Because I was like, I'm going to make this private and just kind of create a referral system and kind of go the Prosperous Coach route of just bringing in people slowly. And then I really thought about how some of these sessions have like 300 plus views. So a ton of people are watching these really in-depth conversations. Like it's almost like there's only a few people in this call and it's all on the edge. Like none of this is scripted. No one in here has a scripted answer to anything. There's no marketing ploys. So it's just about like what you're able to kind of like bring up in the moment and how we connect and hash it out. And then that is somehow making it to a giant audience, like a theater full worth of people at once. So it's kind of cool to see a little bit of a bridge there. Like there's no AI in here. There's no like, I'm not trying to build flashy scripts and try to pull people into the conversation. If anything, I think sometimes it repels people, the fact that I'm like, this is important. They're like, whoa, maybe I'm not good enough for it or something like that. And I'm like, no, that's not true. Like you should come to the conversation, but at the very least, people are listening to this level of depth. So I'm really happy that you guys are here because I voiced it before, like this is on the edge. Like this is not edited. There's no lighting set up. There's no angles. So yeah, I think, but it's still it's still scaling in this interesting way. So thought I'd just bring that up as an aspect. Do you have more to say, Devin? Yeah, go for it.
I just have one little piece. First of all, shout out to the lurking class, and your lighting is phenomenal. Impeccable vibes.
Thanks.
The one little nugget that I wanted to share was from this woman named Rachel Bell, who's a really badass marketer and copywriter, and she knows all of those things, and is also very attuned to this conversation. The line that I wanted to share was outcare, like she's like, this is my strategy. It's outcare the competition.
Mhm. See, I'm loving that. I'm loving where we're going with this conversation because it's so. Also, I wanted like maybe a question. One more question to pose to the group is, if you like in the what would you say is one of the main things that stops you from reaching out and developing a relationship with people? If we were to kind of give an overview, so if people are listening to this conversation, what would you say would be the one thing that stops you from reaching out to create more relationships? And I guess I mean it more than just saying like, hey, how's it going? Like, or like, nice day today. Like, that's a great, like, obviously, but what would stop you from reaching out and being like, hey, I feel like we could really connect together, and I feel that you're a deep cat or something like that. What would you say? For me, it would be whether or not I have something that's valuable for them. That would be something that would be for me. Is my sense of what would give them value strong? That would be my personal kind of one of my personal feelings.
Your inner voice. Ha, 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 ha.
My inner voice?
No, I mean, well, with what you just said, maybe, but I mean, what would stop us from having relationships in general? Maybe, yeah, for me, then I could just admit it would be my what's inside. It'd be what I'm telling myself or what I'm hearing, as opposed to listening to the trust, the deepest parts.
Alexis.
Yeah, I think this ties back to what we were saying before, but it's like the transition of like the personal page becoming my business page. And I'm like, oh, I'm gonna annoy them. Or like, those little shamey voices like, oh, but I'm selling. Oh, but like taking up space to be like, hi, I have something that could be really amazing. Do you want to create magic together? Whoa, like, look at this connection. Right? Instead of meeting them with that, it's like, the inner battle of, am I allowed to? Right? This is like claiming your Instagram or claiming your space or just being in person and claiming that it's like, it's okay for you to have a product. It's okay for you to invite people in. I've like just recently broken into a deeper level of this, and now it's so much fun. And now I'm like sending out so many invitations, and it's so genuine. And I'm like, I cracked the code. It's like, no more shame. I mean, I'm sure maybe it'll come back, but right now it's like, hey, hey, hey. And it's working really well.
Nice. And I can
People
feel
are
the
feeling it.
authentic.
Yeah, the authenticity. And it's so like relaxed as well. I don't really feel like I'm selling anymore. It feels just like natural.
Wow.
Yeah.
Nice. You kind of gave yourself permission. I like that shame element thing too. That's really good. And the taking up space thing. I think that's really, those are some key factors. Thank you for those. I think that will help anybody who's listening. Those are big pieces.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Alicia.
I think what stops me is, oh, is what I have to offer good enough? Who's going to want it? It is that the inner voice, of doubt about, even though I've been playing and teaching for 40 years, I still think, but is it good enough?
Mm,
And that is generally what holds me back, you know, like
those
putting it
perfectionists.
that, yeah, the perfectionist classical cellist.
Mm.
Time to banish her. She's been in control for way too long.
It's always a thing with classical musicians, I notice. It's a bit, it's like, if there was like coaching for classical musicians, it's so much about like autonomy and perfectionism, it seems like
Yeah.
individual self exposure. Like, can I be
Yeah,
exposed?
exposure. And you know, I envy my son is at one point was also pursuing a career in music, and he also is quite an amazing jazz guitarist. Now he's a pilot. But but you know, like in jazz, there's no such thing as a mistake, right? You turn it into something, you bend it. And classical musicians, we just like tunnel vision about what's on the page and faithfulness to the composer, and that is, it can just kill your creativity. And then when you are a little bit of an individualist in your performance, people slam you for it, and yet those are the people we want to hear. So you know, one of the things that I feel driven to as a teacher is helping my students find their own voices and not being afraid, and yet then I put it on myself, you know. So I'm working on that.
Sounds like you and Layla should hook up.
Yeah,
Have
maybe
a
so.
conversation. I'm gonna
Maybe
point.
so.
I'm gonna
That would
point
be
you
great.
out. I'm gonna point you. Sorry, at least, but I want to just as we can only have a couple minutes here, so I want to point out Dennis too. How about you? You're pretty bold man yourself. But what would you say would be a thing that stops you from connecting and reaching out on an impactful level?
Probably the frustration of banging my head against the wall around here, trying to get the recognition. They're bringing a lot of people in from out of the area. I can't compete with an eight piece band because I just can't get that sound, you know. And they're bringing a lot of folks in for like residencies and all that kind of thing. And you and I had the conversation the other day, which I pursued. I went out and dressed up nice and took my guitar with me and actually walked into 3 or 4 tasting rooms. And I actually played my guitar down at one of the places. And there was a guy from Serbia that enjoyed the song, and I went over and had a conversation with him. So it was a lot of fun. But it appears that there's already a mindset over here that getting somebody from out of town is better than having somebody local, and it kind of feels like I'm banging my head against the wall on that. But that isn't going to stop me from pursuing it. And besides, I'm going to Europe, and they can't fuck with that. So you know, I already got those kind of things. What? That's the truth, Layla.
Mm,
It's like, dude, I don't give a shit who you are in little 5,500, you know, population Calistoga. I'm going fucking global, bitches.
nice.
And
I just see the
what
machine guns from last time. That's what came into my head. What's
do
the
I know what it looks like? No, I still don't know what it looks like. But that doesn't mean, you know, I've had the discussion with a lot of folks recently. It's like the end of the flashlight. You know, when you have a flashlight, the flashlight only casts the light so far. And you know, you can either like focus on the end of the flashlight, or you can just keep going and hope that the flashlight catches up, you know. And if you can't see the path when you're on the path. That's another one of my favorite new mantras, and that's the truth, dude. I mean, when you're out there, it's like hanging 10 on a surfboard and not being able to see the surfboard. Why? Because you're already out on the front of it. You know, you can't be looking around going like, oh my God, I can't find my surfboard. What you're saying is like, fuck, look at me riding this wave, dude. You know, and
Right.
you know, I try to remember. Whoa.
That was awesome. How do you even do that?
What the hell was that? And right in
Okay.
the middle, we have a Pink Floyd light show. Um, but I mean, yeah, I mean, somebody asked me the other day, what's your ultimate dream? 80,000 people at Wembley. What the fuck? Why not?
Nice. That's what I want to hear.
If
Oh,
you,
yeah,
if you want to have a goal, then have a goal.
absolutely. Absolutely. Build
Oh,
back.
Layla, I would let you, not only would I let you shoot it, but I would train you so you could shoot it well.
Yeah,
An issue because every man's daughter should know how to shoot.
that's true. True.
I'm getting so distracted by all these. Is this AI? Is this AI at work right now?
Can you do this like
Do you
I
have it?
don't know, but I want that app
I
because
have
that's
it.
like
It
fucking
doesn't-
badass.
Sorry. I don't mean to be distracting. I have no idea how it's doing that. I was just like, yes, that is. And then it just went off. So
yeah, that's
Yeah, that
crazy.
just
You have
makes me
something
want to
cool.
say. That just makes me want to say.
Beavis and Butthead. Okay, well, this has been fantastic, and you guys are great. And I feel like we drilled down into some really soft places that are important. You know, going beyond this generalization and in to the micro rather than being stuck up in the macro with filters and all that stuff. So, another amazing session with such powerful minds, and I can't wait to see you guys all next week. Yeah. Bye.